Today we're taking a look at the RD-210. This came from Banggood. And one thing that's kind of special about this frame is the arms are 4mm and the main plates are so thin. But here are these 4mm arms. Everybody, it seems like, is wanting to make 4mm arms because people seem to break the 2mm and 3mm a lot. But these things are just so thick. Also, like I was saying, this thing has a real thin main plate. And by thin, I mean width-wise, not thickness-wise. So let me get this out of the package and we'll take a little closer look. So here are all the pieces it came with. Of course, the arms and the main plate and the lower plate. But then it has like this thing here, and I'm not really sure exactly what this is for. Maybe for like some kind of bottom plate covering or something. And there's this, and then these are the camera holders. These go on the side to hold your HS 1177 camera or similar up near the front. And the cool thing is it just has the 2 pegs on the front and 1 on the bottom, so that removes a little bit of weight from those. It also comes with these 3 little small pieces. Again, I think these are for holding the arms on. This one is, and this one is for the rear plate to kind of stand off the back of the quad a little bit. But I'm not real sure. Anyway, the picture they gave doesn't give a lot of detail as to where everything's supposed to go. But we're going to try it and see what happens. So here's the bottom plate mostly assembled. It has this little piece up here on the top that's supposed to hold these nuts in place while the screws go into them. And also it has the 4 mounting holes here. And the bottom here, it looks like this. That little main plate is to hold this bottom part in place a little better. And it's kind of odd that these are cut out a little bit bigger. And that's so that these screws will slip in here and they sit flush with the arm actually inside there instead of the bottom plate. I'm not really sure what the point of that is, other than just to look cool, I guess, or maybe to take some of the strain off of these because you're going to be using the nylon spacers on these things. The only downside is look how much space is actually sticking out of these out of the top of these screws. Now it's enough that you can put your spacer on here and it just barely snags, but look, I put it on there and I got 1 twist. Well, I just spun the whole thing. See if I can get it on there while I'm trying to record this. Just put it on there. I got 1 twist and it's already tight. So there's not a lot of meat holding that spacer on right there. Also, the 4 posts here in the middle, they're supposed to be the metal posts, and the nylon posts are supposed to go out here on the edges. And I guess that's to add a little bit of strength. But again, these screws are just barely long enough that if I put this thing on here, I get about 1 twist. About 1.5 twists and it's on. It'd be really nice if those screws were about 2 millimeters longer. I mean, there's no reason to have them so short, especially when it's going into a spacer like this. But for these nylon ones, they have some little shorter screws that are more like this kind of length, and they slide up through the board, and they give plenty of room for the nylon spacers to screw on. But again, it wouldn't be bad if they were another millimeter or 2 longer. All it does is adds a little bit more strength to these posts during a crash. So here's the frame assembled, and this thing feels so heavy duty, and I'm sure it's because of these 4mm plates. And then you throw in this main plate and the lower plate down here, and boy, this thing is thick. But the top plate is right here. It has these little triangle holes, which are kind of cool looking, but they don't really, I don't think, serve a big purpose. And if you had a GoPro up here, you do have a little bit of room, or GoPro or some kind of camera. You have a little bit of room right there where you can run a battery strap through to hold it in place, which is kind of nice. But back here in the back, it has this little plate here that kind of sticks up a little bit. And I think this is where you're supposed to put your control antenna wires. So they would come up through here, and then you'd have little plastic straws to hold them in place. And the video transmitter, I would have thought would have gone through that hole, but it's too small to run it. But there's one up here, but it's up in the middle of the frame, which is kind of an awkward place to put it, and I don't think that hole's big enough for an antenna wire to go through. So I think the antenna wire would probably have to come out the back and then up around this thing here. Now this did come with a couple, like I said, it came with some of these extra plates, and I'm not really sure what this is supposed to be for. I think this is supposed to, it could go right up here on the front on top of these 2 screws like this, and you could use the little spacers that are left right there, and that would give you a good mount for your GoPro or something. But it's going to be flat with the frame, so it's not going to be angled at all. So I'm not really sure. And also, look, the holes don't, the cuts here don't match up between the bottom and the top plate, so I question whether or not that's supposed to go there. It also has a little arrow, but I guess that means it's supposed to point to the front, but I'm not real sure where this is actually supposed to go. Also, it has this little piece, and it looks like the back, it kind of matches this. You can see it there. It kind of matches that, but I don't know why you would put this on top of there like this, or I don't know, I guess you could replace this with this thing if you wanted to, but then your holes are kind of, the holes in this are kind of being blocked by the top plate. So I'm not really sure where this is supposed to go either, but this, the way it's assembled now, sure looks a lot like it does in the picture. I do think this is actually pretty well thought out in terms of the screws down here, but there's a lot of screws to, you know, help hold this thing together. But the only downside of this frame that I came across is really just the length of the screws. I don't know why they would only give you shorter screws for this when the longer ones would really make a big difference in it. Oh well, let's get some measurements off of this and then we'll wrap things up. So here's the RD-210 fully assembled, and we'll put it on the scale. Comes in to be about 126.9. Just for comparison's sake, we'll put it up against the Martian. And the Martian comes in at 150. And here's the GE220 with the 4mm arms. Comes in at 142. And those are just a little bit of, give you a little bit of idea how it compares to them. Here I have the ruler lined up on the center of the motor. And over here to this one, looks like it's about 209, 208. So 210 is a good rating size for this quadcopter. So here I have the caliper out. Let's go ahead and measure these arms. Hopefully they're 4mm. Yep, 4mm. The top plate comes out about 1.5, and the bottom plate looks like 2. Yep, about 2mm bottom plate. So this is pretty thick material that it comes with. And this middle section is 30mm, which is different because usually they're 35. So this has a little bit less room than some of the other ones, but I mean, even looking at this, I can still see there's plenty of room to stack a power distribution board and a Naze 32 up on top of that. On the front of this quadcopter, if you're not going to use these side mounts here for mounting your camera, it also has a few more extra holes down here and one down the center that you could mount your mounting bracket to, and if you wanted to do that instead of using the side holes. So this is the RD-210 from Banggood. With these 4mm arms, it's going to be very, very difficult to break. And with the whole frame coming in around 20 bucks, if you're really concerned about breaking an arm, which I don't really think you should be, you can pick up another frame for 20 bucks and basically you get 4 more arms for 5 bucks a piece. Anyway, a lot of people, one more little side point, so a lot of people ask me, you know, what kind of frame should I get? Should I get, you know, this frame, or should I get an X frame like this GE220, or should I get a Martian frame? If you're asking those kind of questions, I think what you're really trying to do is not waste your money on something that's going to break. Basically, if you buy anything with 4mm arms, you're not going to break it very easily. You're going to have to be going major fast, run into something that's extremely solid like a concrete wall or something. But I think a lot of it really comes down to your preference. If you like this kind of H shape like this, or if you prefer something more like this X kind of shape, I think if you just pick something with 4mm arms, you're going to be very happy with your purchase. Anyway, this is the RD-210 from Banggood. If you have any questions about this, leave them in the comments. I'll try to help you out as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.